You're watching The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are The Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, sir.
She's back, Miss Jemele Hill.
Hey, how y'all doing?
Good morning, Jemele.
Thank you all for having me.
Changed so drastically from when you were here last.
I know, right? Exactly.
I hope it wasn't us.
No, it wasn't you guys at all. But a little bit different circumstances than the last time I was here.
Now, with ESPN, was it like a Jeff Sessions situation where they asked you to resign? But
you just gonna get right into it, huh? Like no warm up, no chit chat. Like we just gonna
Right, get that out the way.
No pep, just right into it.
No, congratulations.
Thank
to
you.
for
Like you at
actually,
least said that.
Yes. Congratulations.
for getting rich?
Yeah, listen.
Oh, yeah, she got rich there. Yeah, ESPN had to cut the check.
No,
Can't talk about that, I'm sure.
It was a thing. It was, look, I know when you hear amicable parting, everybody immediately calls like, this is BS. Like, this is not the case. But in this case, it really was. I mean, I've been there 12 years, so obviously I love the place.
Yeah.
It's the longest job I ever had. It's the best job I ever had. And I think it's sort of, I compare it to a relationship. And I'm sure you guys have experienced this where, you're in love with somebody, but you realize that you have no business being together, right? So we loved each other, got no business being together, not at this point. So we had just kind of reached the end of the road.
I know that feeling. Sometimes you love your job and what it is that you do, but you don't love other things that come with that behind the scenes.
Well, I think for me, it was just what I didn't love is that I felt a little constrained in the sense that there was just such a bigger opportunity to do more. And I realized that ESPN, I mean, they're a sports network. They're there to serve fans and to put on games, and we're there to talk about, results. But especially in this climate, there was just a lot more that I just kind of wanted to get mixed up in. And I knew the things I wanted to get mixed up in was not going to be good business for them.
Were you surprised with the constraints?
No, because they're considering what the company is about. Yeah, they probably should be there. Whenever you work for any media outlet, it's something, right? When I worked in newspapers, like you couldn't have political signs on your front yard, no political bumper stickers. As a journalist, like you're held to a different standard. And so I thought I just kind of reached a point where I wanted to be a little more active, a little more vocal, and not have to worry about an email chain starting every time I said something.
But how tone deaf were the people at ESPN to where they say, don't talk about politics when the head of state is talking about sports?
Yeah.
So if the head of state is talking about sports, then why wouldn't sports journalists talk about politics?
But see, this is the thing, though. I know that people have looked at the comments that have been made by the current president, Jimmy Pitaro, and even by the chairman of Disney, Bob Iger. I think people took what they said a little bit too literally. Never did I hear that when it made sense, when it was newsworthy, not to talk about these things.
Gotcha.
Because, when the president inserts himself in the NFL anthem issue and all these other things concerning sports, you have to talk about it. That's your job and role
The players
as a
aren't going
journalist.
to the White House. You have
Correct.
to talk about
you have
that.
to talk about it because that's newsworthy, right? The people that complained about ESPN being too political, probably didn't appreciate the viewpoint being expressed. So they had an issue with the issues being discussed and the point of view being taken. And it was just lazy and dumb and a stupid narrative because it's not like when you turn to, like when we were on the 6 o'clock Sports Center, Mike and I were talking about illegal immigration or we were talking about healthcare. Like none of that ever happened. Right. We were talking about sports and anything having to do with politics or social justice involving sports were well within the frame of news.
Do you feel like you were done wrong by ESPN in any way?
Not at all.
Gotcha.
ESPN changed my life.
Yeah.
And when I think about the journalist I was when I walked through the door and the journalist that I left, and while I'm the same person, the amount of versatility I have, the different things I can do now, my skill set, everything has improved. It changed the life of not just myself, but my family. I mean, obviously, it changes your fortune a little bit.
Yeah,
when
we
you
saw Bossip report $6 million.
I ain't getting into all
The
of that.
$6 million
I'm not getting into
woman.
all of
And
that.
I know they check and they fact check everything.
I'm not
so
getting
I know.
into all of that. I am not here to confirm any of those details, all right?
Well, today we're doing Change for Change, so we're
since you
raising
have
money
$6
for
million,
Brandon
so that's
Marshall.
why you bringing this
So
up.
We're raising money for Brandon
So we
Marshall's
all
Project
raising money.
375.
That's right. So
You know what I'm saying?
Project 375, you can text change to 52182. It's for a great cause.
It is a great
Mental
cause.
illness,
Mental
eradicating
illness.
the stigma around mental illness in the black community.
No, totally.
We're not asking for the whole $6 million.
I mean,
We just asking Jemele
Again.
Hill to do something.
I just want everybody out there to know. May I just say again, you never heard a figure come out of my mouth, all right? But
Bossip said $6 million.
And we've never heard you say it's not true either.
Again, no figures have come out of my mouth.
Because I feel like if it wasn't true, you'd be like, that's just a rumor. It's
we
not
know
true.
legally she can't say an amount,
Okay,
but
here's the thing, though.
You did move to L.A. too. Now that ain't that's not a
that
cheap
ain't
move.
cheap. Yeah, LA ain't cheap.
Look, I got about 25 hustles out here because I'm
That's true.
out here,
That's
all right?
true.
You know,
Right,
doing the LeBron documentary, doing
Shut Up
their
and
rating
Dribble.
that, Shut Up and Dribble, which is available on Showtime On Demand. Thought I'd throw that in there. And I'm also, a staff writer at The Atlantic. So I got jobs, I'm out
And you have
here.
your own production company.
I have my own
see
production
you're
company.
working with
See?
Gabrielle Union.
Thank you.
on
I mean, I'm
something.
trying to. A friend of mine once told me a long time ago that you got to have 5 hustles.
Yeah.
So I got 3, so I need 2 more. So if y'all got something for me, let me know. All right.
We can all invest in some stuff. You know what
Okay.
I'm saying? You got $6 million. But listen, let's talk about
But I am. But on real talk, though, the cause, as you mentioned, mental health is a huge issue in the Black community. A lot of stigmas come along with that. I certainly have had family members, friends who have had to address mental health issues. So I am very happy to donate to that.
you. I want to talk about some of the hustles you mentioned. You do have a scripted show, I heard, with Kelly Carter coming?
Yeah. So we're working on a scripted comedy with that's being developed by Sony, also with Gabrielle Union as a producer, not as in front of the camera. This is the thing, as a journalist, you're a storyteller. And you guys know, you collect some crazy stories the longer you're in the media game. And there was a specific series that we wanted to do. A lot of people, since the success of Atlanta and the success of Insecure, being a Black creative now is hot in Hollywood.
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
like a totally different sort of experience, and I think than what it used to be. And so looking at Netflix dropping that billion on content and Hulu and Amazon and all these different places, we wanted to get into storytelling, but doing it in a little bit of a different way.
You know what I wanted to ask you about? I thought about you yesterday, right? I was at the Gracie Awards and they honored Pam Oliver. She was the keynote speaker. And I hear this all the time from women who have to work in sports, who choose to work in sports, how much harder it is because, and especially being a Black woman working in sports, not just from people that weigh in and comment on your abilities, but also from coworkers. Like she talked about the beginning of her career, which is, earlier than the beginning of your career, but just even like offering her services to help out and no one wanted her help just because she was a Black woman. And then people commenting on like the job that you do. I feel like as a woman who works in sports, people think that you just don't have knowledge automatically because you're a woman. What has your experience been like?
Well, there is definitely a level of scrutiny and criticism that you face that will be a lot different than the men. And I don't know how we got to this point, or I just always was amused by the fact that even though for many years I worked alongside men that never played professional sports, I had a better high school sports career than a lot of them did. All right, I started every year I was in high school. All right,
That's what I'm talking about.
Like I had some little small college offers, and a lot of dudes didn't even do that. But yet, when it comes to talking about sports and being involved in sports, for some reason we think your level of sports knowledge is directly related to your genitalia, and that's just not the way that it works. And so, for me, I had to, of course, realize that a lot of times when I write something or my commentary, especially if it's going against what conventional male analysts say, then you have to be prepared for the fact that people are going to say, that's why women shouldn't talk about sports. That's why women don't know as much as sports. I remember, and I still like to, the few times I'm actually right about things, I still like to lord this over folks. I remember when Khalil Mack was coming out in the draft and I saw him play against Ohio State and he was the best player on the field. And I was like, look, I know Jadeveon Clowney had, the hit of all hits against Michigan, but like Khalil Mack is the best player in this draft. Man, so many dudes ripped me to shreds for saying that. All I got to say is how you like me now, because Khalil Mack is probably the best defensive player in the league. Him or Aaron Donald.
That's interesting, though, because Skip Bayless ain't never right about nothing. I've been watching, he's entertaining, and I've been watching him for years, but I cannot think of one time Skip Bayless has been right about something.
He hits on a few things here and there, but that's
Every
what I'm
now and-
saying
yeah.
is that, he has an edgy opinion, and while he is ridiculed for that opinion at times, but it's still more welcome for him to have that kind
He
of
would get
opinion as opposed to
demolished.
me.
And we all make mistakes at times, right? And report things that may not be true or make a mistake. Do you
Or
feel
I
like
have bad predictions. It's okay.
Right.
I'm not
Do you
paying
feel
by the
like- do you feel
prediction.
like-
It's just a prediction.
I just predicted the Giants was going to win this year.
we knew that wasn't true?
A
But I'm
game
saying,
or
do you-
just like in
I've been
general?
saying the Cowboys going to win the Super Bowl every year for the past 20
But do
years.
you feel like you get attacked a lot more?
Oh, absolutely. I
When that
mean,
happens.
because when I do, it's just like, again, it's supposed to be some kind of indictment of my gender's involvement in sports. And let me just say this. I mean, you brought up Pam Oliver. Like, she's on my Mount Rushmore. It's crazy because Pam and I have a lot of mutual friends. I've never met Pam face to face.
Really?
But I adore this woman because seeing everything she went through, especially at Fox, and she was just holding it down for so many people, and whether she realized it or not. So even though sideline reporting is not ultimately what I have done, I just respected her reporting, the fact that players, coaches, everybody in the league respects her. So I just have so much love and appreciation for Pam Oliver.
Do you think the media will ever respect opinions from strong black women?
That's a good question. Kind of hard, too, when your president doesn't seem to, right? I would say that's going to always be a slippery slope for most black women, because when we express an opinion, especially a strong point of view in general, we're like angry or we're loud or we're fitting a certain stereotype. So I just think in certain spaces, yes, but in most spaces, probably not.
You know what bothered me? And I was using you as an example because I was looking, because you know when the whole Megyn Kelly situation happened about the blackface, I couldn't even focus on that because when I saw her salary, $69 million. I'm like, how does Megyn Kelly make this kind of money? But you got Amanda Seales, you got an Angela Rye.
Yeah.
Like, y'all would destroy her on y'all worst day. Do you think you'll ever be able to make that kind of money?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, real talk, the whole reason why I started doing television, or I should say started really entertaining a career in daily television, is because of Matt Lauer.
Wow.
Absolutely. $25 million, and I heard he ain't have to work on Fridays. I was like, this is possible? Yes, I'm in.
Yeah.
But, here's the thing about, Megyn Kelly. She, whatever money she has coming is just going to be coming. And that's just the way that TV works. But, my dissatisfaction was not with necessarily Megyn Kelly. I'm not talking about the blackface stuff. That was obviously ignorant. But it happens to a lot of people of color, especially in media, is like the way that they did Tamron Hall and Al Roker. Like, she didn't outrate what they did.
Yeah.
And they went to someone else, to another another avenue, thinking that she would be better, trying to appeal to the quote unquote other side, because we're hearing a lot of that now. And Tamron and Al, they deserve that shot. And a lot of times people want to come to us when it's like worst case scenario or they have no other option, as opposed to giving us the same opportunity that we have deserved. I shouldn't say give, but our opportunity that we have deserved. And so I just thought in many ways it was just the chickens coming home to roost. Because how can you be shocked that somebody who said that Santa Claus is white and get over it would say something ignorant on national TV? She said a bunch of ignorant things at Fox. So why are we surprised that this is how this story
ends? They
ends?
hired her for that.
I mean, to some
exactly.
degree, they thought that she would probably tone it down, I'm sure, because as you guys know, as morning people, like, you have to have a different energy and a different amount of welcomeness, when you're doing morning television. People have to want to sit down and have a cup of coffee with you. Right. There was nothing about her personality at Fox that ever made me think she was going to be that person. And so I'm just like, everybody could kind of see this coming. It's, kind of like being shocked that Roseanne said something ignorant that got her off her own show.
I never understood the Santa Claus is white thing. I'm not about to argue with you about a fictional person.
I was like, Santa Claus is whatever. Doesn't exist. Right. And, then she doubled down. It was like, Jesus is white. It's like, dang, like, we just going all the way there.
Now, I'll debate with you on that one. You know what I mean?
You're right. Because there is some biblical evidence.
Now, I want to talk about sports.
That.
And you mentioned sports earlier, right? We were talking about, I want to go to the NBA. Is the NBA fun anymore?
Oh.
Hell yeah, it's fun.
It's not. You got one team that's just
here you go. You're not one of them dudes.
That's not fair.
You're not one of these dudes.
You got an all-star team all year round.
Dude, you see the drama, right? Draymond and KD. Tell me that's not spicy.
If KD comes to the Knicks, that'd be great.
There y'all go. Y'all forever the Knicks fans. I swear to God, y'all eat limitless wish sandwiches.
Who more delusional, Knicks fans or Cowboys fans?
Knicks fans, by far. Because at least you have a recent championship history. It's like I wasn't even born the last time the Knicks won a title.
But let's talk about the NBA. Is it fun?
He's just like, let's go back.
Leave my Knicks alone. But is it fun anymore, or does that team win the next 5 years, 7 years, 8 years?
Nah, you need a villain.
Beats them?
And look, this rift that's going on between Kevin Durant and Draymond Green.
I don't understand that.
I don't, but yet I sort of do, and it's not one of those things I think is going to blow over easily. Because,
what is it about? How did it start?
Well, clearly that the real tension is in the fact that Kevin Durant is coming up on free agency, and clearly Draymond Green feels some kind of way about the fact that he has not eliminated some of the speculation and hasn't shut it down and has allowed it to be a storyline. And let's just talk money. Draymond Green is going to be up soon, and he could get a max deal. They can't keep everybody. You have Clay.
Somebody got to leave.
Somebody going to have to. Somebody is going to be left without your chair.
We'll take Clay and the Knicks. Look at him. I'm sorry.
Nobody coming here, man.
By the way, whichever one of them leaves, they're going to L.A. to play with Bron. Whether it's Kevin Durant or Draymond.
So let me ask you this. What would be the reaction if Kevin Durant went to play with LeBron James?
I don't think people would care no more. I'm going to tell you what. I think people are over that. I think after LeBron's decision and Kev going to Golden State, I don't think people are surprised by any moves.
People still on KD's head about going to Golden State and taking the quote-unquote easy way route.
I don't know what's on KD's head. None of us have figured that out yet. Okay, what is it?
See? I'm going to just keep it to sports. Right?
What's your relationship with LeBron like? Because now that you're narrating his film, his documentary, some people might feel like, well, now she's not going to say nothing negative about LeBron because they work together.
No. I mean, I think he understands the function of what my job is. And I've always had this attitude, regardless of whether or not I had the sort of working relationship that I had with LeBron or not, is that I'm never going to say something on television or write something about an athlete I can't say to their face, right? And I think it's just a good guideline for journalists to have, because regardless, even if a guy is not necessarily good, I have enough professional respect for the amount of work that they have put in to get to that point, because it's hard to be a professional, and so I understand that. And even when I'm talking to coaches, I never come into this situation like I know more than them. I don't. I never can, because they practice at this craft much longer. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to ask Pete Carroll why he ain't hand the ball to Marshawn Lynch, because, we can all see he should have handed the ball to Marshawn Lynch. But that being said, there's just a mutual respect there. As for LeBron, even though I'm narrating this documentary, I mean, LeBron and I, we ain't going to the mall together. We know and are aware of who each other is, and we've had conversations before in the past. And I just thank him for honestly allowing me to have this opportunity to narrate this documentary, because, as you notice, you don't hear a lot of women narrating sports documentaries. Right. And so not only to pick a woman, but to pick a black woman, I think that says a lot about who he is and what's important to him. As I continue to point out, he's married to a black woman. He's raising a black woman. So in case people haven't noticed, recently and maybe over the last year or so, he's really done a lot to try to uplift and position, black women as authority figures. So I really respect that about him. And it was just an honor to work on this documentary, because the content is really strong. And for a lot of people who kind of live in present history and forget that a lot of the stuff we've seen before, as new as Colin Kaepernick may feel to people, there was a Craig Hodges and a Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, which this documentary hits on.
Based on that documentary, though, there's nobody else that could have voiced that other than you.
Well, I'm glad you think so.
I want to go back to Golden State for 1 second. Do you think Draymond should have gotten suspended for arguing with Kevin Durant? That's his teammate.
Well, the fact that he did get suspended lets you know the seriousness of it. Yeah. And that's why I said this thing is not going to blow over. I think there's some real animosity there. And even hearing how Kevin Durant responded when asked if he and Draymond had talked, the fact that they hadn't. Any NBA player would tell you through a course of a season, it's a grind. And even if you've won a lot together, you've spent a lot of time together. It's like familiarity breeds contempt. That's what they often say, or contempt rather. And so I think there are some issues that they had there. And Draymond, he has a very forceful personality. And he's always at guys, and he had just made a mistake. You guys have been in these arguments, when you're in a relationship where, somebody may just leave the cap off the milk, and it's like, okay, but why you cheat on me 5 years ago? It's like, damn, why you bringing that up? What do they got to do with the milk? And it felt like that kind of argument when they were trying to get on Draymond for making a silly play. Kevin Durant was, and then it was like, so why you out here letting the speculation ride in free agency? It's like, whoa, dude. What's the real issue here? And so that leads me to believe that this is not just one of those arguments that takes place during the course of the season. We might be, and I hate to be dramatic, but I'm going to be dramatic. We might be looking at how their team winds up ending this dynasty.
The downfall of the
Kevin,
dynasty.
Kevin going to L.A. Kevin or Draymond going to L.A. Also with the dynasty, right? I don't understand why people get upset when Golden State wins every year. We all grew up in the 90s.
Right.
We grew up with the Bulls winning 6 championships. The Bulls won every
fight.
year.
This doesn't feel like a fight.
What do you mean?
You're saying it's not interesting.
It's not interesting at all.
Who really challenged the Bulls? during that run.
Thank you. It's like Mike. We knew that was a foregone conclusion. He was winning.
What was it? A so-called all-star team, or did he put those players and make those players?
Why
better?
does it matter?
It does.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
Mike never been to a Game 7 in the finals. We knew what Mike was going to do in the NBA finals.
It does matter. It does matter when you have everybody scoring 30 and nobody can miss.
Well, the Knicks aren't going to get it, so it doesn't really
Shut
matter.
up.
Or did you forget that Golden State actually lost a couple years ago?
Yeah.
Like, they actually lost. They blew a 3-1
And
lead.
then what did they do?
What?
They got Kevin Durant.
Okay.
They're never losing again. Now let's talk Rondo Paul. That spat.
Are you talking about spit?
That spat. Now, what did you think when you seen that?
Well, it was just hard for me to believe it. Like, I hate to be diagnosing this video, and I'll admit, like, I know Rondo.
You can spit through your teeth like.
That's what I didn't think it was a purposeful spit. And I hate to be analyzing spit because that just seems so tedious.
It was a lot though.
I mean, he was just juicy mouthed it.
That's
what
all.
I looked at.
That's all.
He was just juicy mouthed it.
That's all.
Right?
Running around,
like
his
it,
spit
you know
quiet,
what I'm saying?
gathered
You
up
on the
in his
court.
mouth.
Yeah, you got that mouth guard on.
I do it all the time. Then you be embarrassed, like, damn, did I spit on
Right,
him? Should
and
I say
like,
something? Should I
you know,
acknowledge it?
when that little speck flies across and you just keep going with the conversation, you're like, I'm just act like I didn't
Nah,
spit on
nah,
it.
nah,
We're just
nah,
gonna keep going. But no, I just didn't feel like he did, because think about this: if somebody purposely spit in your face, your response would not be to mush them upside the head. Your response would be to straight up fire on them, because that's like the most disrespectful thing that you can do. And Chris Paul responded, but he didn't, to me, respond like somebody who had just been spit on. You know, so look, they have a lot of animosity. I mean, it goes back years. I think Rondo has felt disrespected by Chris Paul, and look, CP3. Anybody that has met him off the court, he's one of the greatest guys, right? But on the court, that's a different
Beast,
CP3.
animal, savage.
Yo, straight up. Like, he coming for your lunch money. And so I think that a lot of people were a little surprised, because he does have this nice guy persona, but he plays with the edge. And he's been known to toe the line in terms of how he plays. Like, some people think he's a dirty player. I think he's just really aggressive, for sure. And he does have the kind of personality in playing with him that other players have said that can grate on you after a while. So I just think it was just built up. I was actually at that game. I was there in person, and I was just so excited as somebody who, like, you guys like love 90s basketball. I was like, oh my God, it was actually punches.
That's right.
Right? It was like punches thrown, like straight up beef, like, oh, we back. You know what I mean?
Detroit, old Knicks.
You know what I mean? And even better, it was how the league responded. Because when Melo, I think when he did.
We're going to talk about Melo after this too, but go ahead.
No, look, but he got 15 games. Because they were still in that mindset of overcorrection. But I think now, because the league is in such a healthy place and people don't have that perception of the league anymore as like a league full of thugs, that the NBA, I actually was proud of the way they responded. They didn't overreact.
Before we move on to Miller, I want to talk about Chris Paul, because I had a good debate about him this weekend when it came to point guards, right? Do you think he's overrated as a point guard? All-time great point guard.
Okay, so this is what I would say about
All-time great, you saying?
Yes.
like in that hollow class like Jason Kidd.
I got Magic number one.
Of course.
Number two is John Stockton to me.
Okay, that's fair.
And then I
You put Allen Iverson in there, or you put Allen shooting guard?
Allen was a two, right?
Yeah, he was a
He
two.
did one or two. He did one or two.
That's what the debate was. The debate was me saying John Stockton was two, and somebody was trying to debate with me about Chris Paul. I'm like, John Stockton?
Wait, they would put Chris Paul over John Stockton?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
His name is Van Lathan. by the way.
Oh, I know Van. I know Van. Okay, spicy take there. No, I mean, here's the thing that I come back to with Chris Paul. All right, most people consider him a superstar, right? So he's never held to the superstar standard. Like, people aren't on his head the same way they were on KD about not winning a title, the way they were on LeBron, the way they've been on other players. So it's like he sort of gets the benefit of both worlds. It's like he is lauded as the game's best point guard because he is, though he can't score, he is one of the few true point guards you see. Most of the guards you see now are scoring point guards made in the image of like Kyrie or John Wall, right? So he is somebody who can manage a game and is a complete captain quarterback on the court. But when you look at output in terms of playoffs and being to the finals, then that's a whole different conversation. So it depends on, are we talking about the way he plays, or how much are we accounting for actual playoff success and championship success, which he doesn't have.
Yes.
So for me, that is what would keep him off some of these lists because other guys in that position have actually done it. Now, being that I'm from Detroit, you know I got Isaiah in my top five.
Yeah,
so
Isaiah,
you know what I'm
Isaiah,
saying? No disrespect to Allen Iverson, but the best player I have seen in my generation under 6 feet is Isaiah Thomas.
Wow.
Really? Over AI?
Yeah. Yes, I would. Because there's nothing. Look,
Wow.
check the tape. That's all I gotta say.
Why do people front on John Stockton though?
I think. Let's be
because he's white in Utah, right?
Yeah, that's why, because he's white and it's Utah. But anybody that saw those teams play, like that man was a wizard, and it was a reason. Speaking of Isaiah, that he had John Stockton as his presenter at the Hall of Fame. You know, and a lot of people felt some kind of way because Isaiah wasn't picked for the Dream Team, which was all Michael Jordan's fault. But that's a whole nother story because he was being petty. But John Stockton is definitely one of the greatest to ever play that position. Nobody could do a pick and roll like John Stockton. Absolutely. And I know he had Karl Malone and all that, but the way that he could break down a defense and just the intelligent way he played the game and could control tempo, he is definitely one of the game's greatest players.
Now let's talk Melo.
Uh-oh.
What happens with Melo now? What does Melo retire?
China.
Does he try to go to no team?
Y'all already got my man in
Don't
China.
put him in China.
So you don't
man.
think it's one team in the
I
NBA?
do. I still think Melo's a star.
At what? Oh, I'm sorry. I
you getting on me because I said China?
I didn't mean to say that out loud. But like a star.
Melo he just scored 28 a week ago.
So you building a team around Melo?
I wouldn't say build a team
so
around
that's what
Melo.
a star is.
You want him back on the Knicks?
Of course he probably does.
I like Melo on the Knicks. I just think the Knicks did him dirty. I just think Phil Jackson was horrible. But
What
happens with Melo?
So I do think one team, one or two teams are going to kick the tires on that. I mean, I saw a report.
Kick the tires,
Jesus
my goodness.
Christ.
I don't know. That's not out of disrespect to Melo, but you have to look at the stage he is in his career, what he can contribute. And I don't think everything, I know, I hate to sound like a Melo apologist, but I'm going to sound like a Melo apologist.
Stats are still good, but go ahead. His stats are still
It's not a
He's
stat.
averaging 13. No, for a guy
It's not a stat thing. It's a fit thing.
Okay.
And Houston, to me, was in trouble because the nucleus of their team, Trevor Ariza, they let a lot of defensive players go.
Right.
And that's how, despite how prolific their offense was, that was really the core of their team. Mm-hmm. And Melo is not going to be able, at this stage in his career, to compensate for all that. And the type of offense they like to run, while, Melo, they needed a shooter, and that's what Trevor Ariza certainly provided. It just, to me, it always seemed like an awkward fit. And that was, unfortunately, this latter stages in his career, that's been the problem. Is like he hasn't been someplace where he fits. He didn't fit in OKC. Like everybody could see that coming. And I just wonder, I just hope for him that he's able to find a situation where he can actually fit so that everything is not always Melo's fault.
Do you see a situation for him?
So somebody brought up Charlotte, and that would be interesting to me. I think certainly from a ticket selling standpoint, in terms of generating buzz, that could be helpful. Thinking about the makeup of their team, I could see it. But
I said that in jest last week.
Oh, did you?
Yes, I was like Charlotte, only because him and Jordan got a relationship. And he'd sell tickets.
I mean, that's
it.
And I don't mean to, kind of reduce him to, some kind of carnival barker at this stage in his career. But it's got to be mentality. Like, he's got to go in there okay with being the veteran, coming off the bench, playing a specific role.
Melo ain't coming off the bench, man.
Oh, Melo, I'll go to China and ball.
Melo.
But you guys know his family is here. Like, like for what?
A couple years just to get a statue.
But for what?
Like the new Barbarian.
That's all.
He can retire. He got it. I wouldn't go to China. I would retire first.
Before you went to China?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
it's good money though. It is good money.
I'm not trying to be in
And
his
they treat
pockets,
you
but
like
it's
a-
not like Melo missing
Melo
a
don't need
check.
the
Like,
dollar.
he's
Still,
always
look,
got
you get-
his money.
It's good money, and they treat you like a crazy superstar over there.
I just have a
There's
feeling
a lot of opportunity.
that being away from his family is probably going to take precedent. It's sort of a shame because it does, when you compare his career to, say, the decisions that LeBron has made or D-Wade, his other, draft mates since they were all, together. It's just, he had at certain points where had he just taken another path, it just, so much of this might have turned out differently.
If he'd have just played for Detroit. If he'd have just ended up in Detroit
I know.
originally.
I feel like that was it. That was his fork in the road. And he couldn't control that, obviously. Right. And I still have, issues with Joe Dumars for taking Darko instead of him, because he was like the most obvious person you take. He literally could have taken anyone in that draft but Darko.
That's crazy.
And the Pistons would have been set up for 15 years of success.
Absolutely. Out of that whole top 5 of all those great players that got picked, y'all picked Darko.
The worst one. I was like, how does that happen? And it's so rare that when you're already in the mode of you have a championship team to get a top 3 pick. And because, Detroit, when you're I would say a smaller market team, you have to build a different way. You can't rely on a superstar to come there and save the day. And they had, totally constructed this team in a very smart and savvy way. And like that was the opportunity to set the franchise up for the next decade or so. And it didn't happen. And for Melo, too. I mean, if he wins out the gate, how much does that change the perception of how he's looked at?
Yeah, absolutely.
And once, Rip and Chauncey and all those guys were gone, he would have been there to take over and be the superstar that Detroit needed.
Last question about Melo. Do they retire his jersey, and what city retires it if they do retire it? He was an all-star.
He was.
Great player.
I mean, he's definitely going to be a Hall of Famer.
Who retires the jersey if somebody does?
Denver.
Not the Knicks. You don't think the Knicks will?
Knicks.
I think the Knicks will.
You think
The
so?
Knicks.
I totally will. Like, that's a Knick move. Definitely. And I mean that with both respect and disrespect. But that's a total Knicks move. And they should, because he did, even though the results weren't always there, but I think anybody who watched him and certainly anybody who talked to him, he loved playing here in New York. Mm-hmm. And you know how you guys do with players who love the city and have the affection for it and play the way that he played. I mean, he gave him a lot of really good years. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate that they were never able to construct anything around him. They wasted a lot of his time. And so, I mean, that's on Phil Jackson's head. And some of it Melo has to take responsibility for, because when they wanted him to come as a free agent as opposed to being traded, that also was one of those decisions that had it gone a different way and he just been a little more patient, what kind of team would they have been able to construct around him, having not have to mortgage so much in order to get him there? And he was coming in a couple months anyway.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about Nike doing a deal with Colin Kaepernick?
I love it. But I want people to understand this. They didn't do it out of charity. Yes. They didn't do it because they have a social conscience. They did it to make money.
That's it.
Look at how that merch. You know what I'm saying?
Some people might have thought that it wouldn't make money.
No, they knew. I mean, it's Nike. Like they look into market research. And one of the things that's always bothered me whenever there's discussions about Colin Kaepernick is we spend so much time talking about people who dislike his stance and the detractors, not realizing like he has a huge fan base. Like for all the idiots out there burning those Mall Walker 11s or whatever, there are twice as many people who would buy anything with Colin Kaepernick's name or likeness on. The T-shirts that he has for Nike, they're already gone. Like, you can't even get those things, right?
You think another company was trying to step up and even do?
I do. I mean,
they were, though.
I do.
There was a couple.
It was. I completely believe that because he can still generate buzz. I mean, the amount of media attention, what they say was almost $200 million that he generated for Nike in 2 days. So wherever he goes, like he's somebody who's, so polarizing that he's going to draw from both sides. He's going to have his fans that are going to ride for him, and the people that don't like him are still going to pay attention to his every move. So he's sort of in the perfect space in that regard. But it was, a bold decision by Nike and ultimate troll move for his first commercial running that first week of the NFL season. Yeah, that was brilliant. Checkmate.
I'm glad he did the deal. I just don't like people acting like Nike is the new Black Power fist. Like,
nah, man. They need to relax on that. I also don't like, along those same lines, people thinking that you have to be broke if you're an activist. I've had conversations with both Tommy Smith and John Carlos about what life was like for them after they raised the fist. They couldn't afford to feed their families, and they couldn't get jobs, and they were ostracized in this country, and that put them under financial hardship. Part of the reason why Colin Kaepernick is able to keep his activism in this fight going is because he has financial leverage, because he made the money in San Francisco, because he can probably have any speaking engagement he wants and commands any dollar figure because Nike is continuing to give him a contract. That's part of what gets this and keeps him in the news and keeps this conversation, this very important conversation going. So just because you stand for something doesn't mean that your checking account has to be on zero, because some people are trying to say that he's trying to profit off being involved in social justice issues when I think he's just doing the smart thing. And not to mention his jersey sales with the NFL, he donated all of that to different social justice causes. So he's put his beliefs and his money, they've certainly aligned.
Well, Jemele, since we're talking about decisions, right, and, leaving teams, let's talk about you for a second. Are you feeling great and comfortable now not being in front of the camera and being more behind the scenes? Do you like that better?
I do. I mean, I want better is relative, and I want people to understand I haven't retired from television. Okay, right now I'm just sort of mulling my options and thinking about what makes the most sense. This is a very foreign stage for me in my career. Like, I came up under the umbrella of traditional media, so I'm used to working for just one place. That's where the paycheck is coming from, representing just them, and then that's it. I'm now building my career more a la carte. All right. And so, as you mentioned, I have the production company, writing for The Atlantic, mulling some podcast opportunities as well, and thinking about what direction I want my television career to go.
Now you could produce your own TV show.
I could, but most of the stuff that I want to do with the production company does not involve me being front-facing talent, because I still want to tell stories. That's the whole reason I became a journalist. And so the other part of it, I think for me too, is one thing I think I learned over the last year and a half, is that I don't know that I ever want to be sort of solely owned by one entity. My greatest asset is my versatility. And as you guys know, there's a lot of companies that you work for that won't let you do other things. And I don't know if I want to be under that kind of constraint again. Right. So luckily,
now you walk in demanding what you want because you're in a situation where you don't need to have something else. And you can say, look, I already have this, and that going on.
I already got $6 million on the side. I can do
See, there y'all go, man. Y'all gonna have relatives I ain't never heard of calling me after doing this show.
They got gossip. They started on gossip. I feel like God moved you for a reason, though, because you are
everything
so
happens
talented.
For a reason. Everything happens for a reason.
You cannot be handcuffed to ESPN. Jemele Hill has too much to offer the world.
Everything happens for a reason. I'm a big believer in that, and I definitely believe in the adage of when God closes a door, He opens a window, right? And so that's why I'm was able to leave ESPN with a great deal of peace of mind, because I knew I was in the exact place that I was supposed to be. And to your point, I can now have my pick of things to do, and which is also a very different point for me in my career. And so I'm looking to align with projects and things that best reflect who I am and what I care about. And it's not often in your career you get a chance to do that. And I feel really blessed that I'm at that point where, I can certainly have my pick of things and don't have to worry about, okay, who am I pissing off? Who do I have to, stay clear of? What can I do? I'm not worried about the constraints. Everything feels very limitless to me right now.
Not to mention, Megyn Kelly is making $69 million. Why?
Look, get it how you live, man. Like, the way I look at it is that even though there's obviously some differences between me and Megyn Kelly, I'm like, man, all it takes is
obvious differences.
See what? This is true.
The obvious differences.
What you got there, huh?
Some mayonnaise and crackers. That's all.
Okay.
That's a little different.
Terrible combination.
It is.
Sounds
I might be more of a graham cracker and hot sauce over here. But somebody
graham
gonna
crackers and hot sauce together?
No, come on
I'm
now.
about to say, my God, what kind of terrorist are you?
That's like I just invented like a straight up slave meal. Like that's. Not, but I do eat. Don't front. I eat saltines and sardines. Like I ain't ashamed. I'm out here. All right. I ain't forgot my roots. But no, I mean that's why I never hate on when I see other women, other people of color get a whole lot of money, whether they deserve it or not. That's not for me to determine.
Right.
All it takes is one person to write the check, and if I know it's possible for them, I was like, let me throw it into existence. It's got to be possible, for me.
Damn right.
So if that's the check they cutting, then everybody knows it, and so the next person that walks into that door say, "Oh, but you gave her $23 million, so
we got a price point." Yeah,
you got a price point, right?
Absolutely.
You got to know what your ceiling is. So
but that's why we appreciate your donation, man. With all that money you got floating around, I know you need some tax write-offs.
Bianca, what we doing? Who's handling this donation from Jemele Hill?
52182, or you could go to bcchange4change.com.
I got
tax
y'all.
write-off, baby. When you making millions like that,
Now I'm not gonna. You don't have to say what you donated, but last year when certain notable people donated, they put the money out there.
Okay.
That's just because it made other notable people know what the price
So it's like a
point is.
competition.
Yeah.
Right. It's
that's
like,
all.
you know, when you're in the strip club and you see that one table throwing the ones, and then you like, I got more ones, and then I break out my stripper
You at the
gun.
big table right now.
Boom,
You at
like,
the $6 million table right now.
So we just
Don't
need a
let
little
them
price
pressure you,
point.
Jemele.
I'm not.
Now
Yeah.
think about it. It's some things that we all care about. It's sports because it's Brandon Marshall.
Correct.
Right?
Absolutely.
It's mental health.
Yes.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
As I said,
Black
I
people.
have
The
family
Breakfast Club.
members who have suffered from these issues, and a lot of it was they couldn't speak to what they were suffering from, and just in general, just the daily trauma of being Black. A lot of us need somebody to talk
That's
to
right.
professionally,
That's
and feel very,
right now
feel
over
very ashamed about needing and wanting that.
I go to
So-
therapy
if you
once a
don't-
week.
So I look. Wait,
Write the number down.
Jemele,
you
don't
want-
be. Don't.
Just
you
write
know
the-
what? So I prefer to give in secret.
okay,
I
all right,
don't need,
okay.
I don't need
All right.
people to know what
That's
I'm
right.
giving and what I'm
Tell
not.
what some people gave so she knows.
All right, yeah. Give me a price point.
So, all
give me a
right,
price
so
point. What I
Van
got?
Lathan gave 1,000,
Okay.
Van gave
Okay.
1,000.
but
Q from P from
P from QC,
Okay.
that he gave 20,000.
But, he acting his wage. Van acting his wage, and P from QC acting his
He
wage.
acted
Now,
his
Fashion,
way.
Fashion Nova gave
Fashion Nova gave
25,000.
25,000.
That's light for
Some
Fashion Nova.
ballers up in here.
No, that's light for Fashion.
Y'all
Fashion
realize
Nova-
I ain't got a record deal, right? Like I ain't got a single in the street.
Yeah, but
like,
you got a $6 million settlement, according to Bossa.
Again, this is Charlamagne reporting. This is not Jemele
But
reporting.
don't worry, we have an NDA on what you give, so don't worry. We just appreciate you.
No, I will
spreading the word, donating,
totally give.
and coming up here and being part of this. We do appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you guys. 'Cause I'm sure you all, you allow people to relieve some stress every day that you do this job. You're part of a lot of people's self-care. Certainly a part of mine. So I appreciate you guys for having me.
Well, thank you for
I love
stopping
having
through.
a millionaire woman in the room, so we appreciate
Who, you?
I'm talking about you.
You said $1 million, $6 million woman.
Yeah. You got it.
Millionaire
You don't
is
act like you don't got it.
millions.
It's Jemele Hill.
Yes.
It's the Breakfast Club. Thank you for stopping through.